1985 was quite the year for music, especially country music. The year saw a mind-blowing 51 songs rotated out of the Hot Country Singles #1 position. From groovy chart toppers to absolute cult classics, it had it all. Songs that left an indelible mark on the genre. Well, in today's video, we'll be traveling back to 1985 and taking a look at some of the best country hits of the year that you might have forgotten about. There's No Way by Alabama.
There's no way I could make.
Starting off our list is a song from a band anyone who lived through the 80s will remember. Not even just the 80s. They are, to date, one of the biggest country bands ever. Coming up in 10th place is There's No Way by Alabama. Written by acclaimed songwriters John Jarrett, Will Robinson, and Lisa Paulus, There's No Way was quite the record breaker for Alabama. The band started in 1985 pretty strong, releasing There's No Way in January as the lead single from their 7th studio album, 40 Hour Week. The song became an instant hit, much to no one's surprise, given that Alabama was on quite the roll. When it reached #1 on the Billboard magazine Hot Country Singles chart in May, it became Alabama's 16th, yep, you heard that right, 16th straight #1 single in just as many single releases. A feat that had only been accomplished by one man before them, Sonny James. And a record he'd held for 14 long years before Alabama tied him. There's No Way had Alabama's signature country rock style, with Randy Owens' distinctive vocals and the group's tight harmonies. It was nominated for Single Record of the Year at the 1986 Academy Country Music Awards. Don't Call It Love by Dolly Parton.
Don't call it love, heavens above.
The 80s was the queen of country, Dolly Parton's decade. So there's no way she misses up on a list like this. Next up, Don't Call It Love by Dolly Parton. Dolly herself wrote the song and was the second single off her 27th studio album, Real Love, released in January 1985, another album right at the start of the year. While the song didn't quite reign supreme in the charts in 1985, Don't Call It Love eventually peaked at #3 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs charts. The song features a sound the world had fully expected from Dolly, her signature country pop sound with the catchiest of melodies. It wasn't quite an instant hit, nor did it get any major award nominations or break any records on its way to becoming a classic like Alabama's There's No Way. But it remains one of Dolly's most popular and enduring songs. And that's saying a lot, because you know the Queen of Country has so many truly great songs. Time Don't Run Out on Me by Anne Murray.
Time don't run out on me.
In 8th place is Time Don't Run Out on Me by Anne Murray. Female singers from the 80s always made sure to dominate the charts. And there are few singers like Anne Murray who did just that. And Time Don't Run Out on Me is another testament to this, although not the level we're used to with this singer. Written by quite possibly America's most successful songwriting duo, Jerry Goffin and Carole King, the song was released right at the start of the year as the second single from Miss Murray's gold-selling album, Heart Over Mind. The song's lyrics tell the story of a person still trying to hold on to a relationship and asking time to slow down. In just 3 months after the song's release, it hit #1 on Canada's RPM Country Tracks chart, and also did quite well in the US, peaking at #2 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. Unfortunately, all of this didn't secure Anne Murray any awards when award season came rolling in. But it's still quite the classic, something Miss Murray certainly isn't short of. The song later appeared on the singer's 2007 album, Anne Murray Duets Friends and Legends, which was re-recorded as a duet with the song's co-writer Carole King. I Don't Know Why You Don't Want Me by Rosanne Cash.
I don't know why you're so right.
We've had some pretty popular names on here so far. How about some more obscure ones? 1985 started with a bang for country songs, and there are more where that came from. Next up is I Don't Know Why You Don't Want Me by Rosanne Cash. While Miss Cash is pretty much mostly known because she's the daughter of country musician Johnny Cash, she left her own mark on the genre, and this Grammy-winning record is a testament to that. I Don't Know Why You Don't Want Me was released right at the start of the year, in February to be exact, as the lead single from her fourth studio album, Rhythm and Romance. The track was written by Rosanne herself and her then-husband, Rodney Crowell. It didn't take long for the song to top the charts, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart in April and spending a total of 15 weeks on the top 40. Before the song, Rosanne had just lost a Grammy to Juice Newton, and it was basically written in response to that. Quite ironic that the song went on to win Miss Cash her first Grammy, Best Female Country Vocal Performance in 1986. The first Grammy winner on our list, by the way. A song that made sure the name Rosanne Cash wouldn't always be attached to Johnny Cash. Lost in the 50s Tonight by Ronnie Milsap.
We're lost in the 50s tonight.
How about we go from one Grammy-winning chart topper to another? In 6th place, Lost in the 50s Tonight by Ronnie Milsap. Forget getting lost in the 50s. This classic is almost lost to time. Ronnie ruled the country music scene from the 70s to the 80s, and this song is yet another testament to this rule. Lost in the 50s Tonight was released in June of 1985 as the lead single from Ronnie's 14th studio album. The song was written by Mike Reed and Troy Seals as a melody to the original 1956 hit In the Still of the Night, written by Five Satins lead singer Fred Paris. The track was Ronnie's 42nd single release, and when it eventually reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles, it became his 27th song to do so. Like many of his other singles, Lost in the 50s Tonight also did quite well as a crossover hit on the Billboard Adult Contemporary charts, peaking at number 8. Believe it or not, this became his last top 10 single to make it to the chart. The next year, it won Ronnie his 4th Grammy Award for Best Country Vocal Performance for a male artist. It was also named the Song of the Year at the 21st Academy of Country Music Awards in 1986. 7 Spanish Angels by Ray Charles and Willie Nelson.
There were 7 Spanish angels.
So far, we've only had songs released in 1985. How about a song released in 1984, but didn't top the charts until 1985? That spot goes to 7 Spanish Angels by Ray Charles and Willie Nelson. The song was released in November 1984 as a single from Ray Charles' album Friendship, but it didn't reach number 1 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart until March 1985. Written by Troy Seals and Eddie Setzer, the song was performed as a duet between Ray Charles and Willie Nelson, perfectly blending Charles' R&B style with Nelson's country sound. Charles and Nelson split the verses, with Charles singing first and Nelson following right after. Charles also sang the first and second choruses, with Nelson joining in for the outro. Despite its late bloom, 7 Spanish Angels was the most successful of Charles' 8 songs on the country chart. It spent only a single week at the number 1 on the US country chart, but would go on to spend a total of 12 weeks on the chart. The song actually earned both Charles and Nelson a Grammy Award for Best Country Vocal Performance by a duo or group in 1986. The 3rd consecutive Grammy-winning record on our list. 7 Spanish Angels is one song no one should forget about. Real Love by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers.
We got a real love right inside.
Well, talking about influential country duets, it would be a sin not to mention this song. If you had money on Dolly Parton coming up again on our list, then you're a rich person right now. Next up is Real Love by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. Surely you remember this one. After the top 10 success of Dolly's Don't Call It Love, she still had another hit on her hands. This time, though, a duet. Written by David Malloy, Richard Spady Brannon, and Randy McCormick, Real Love's lyrics celebrate the excitement and joy of finding, you guessed it, real love, with Dolly Parton and Kenny trading lines and harmonies. It was released in April 1985 and did not top the US country singles chart until August. The slow burn was quite worth it, as it did actually get to number 1, becoming Dolly and Kenny's second chart topper as a duet act. Despite this success, Real Love didn't fare as well on the top singles chart as an earlier duet both singers had done, Islands in the Stream from 1983. The song stalled at number 91 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 13 on the Adult Contemporary chart. Well, that didn't stop Kenny and Dolly from making the most out of the song. However, they both embarked on a 9-city United States concert tour in February, from which an HBO concert special, Real Love, was filmed. The song also didn't win any awards when award season came rolling, but that doesn't diminish how big or influential the song is. In the end, it's still a Dolly and Kenny duet. Morning Desire by Kenny Rogers.
With morning.
If you're a Kenny Rogers fan, you're probably wondering where he's been all video long. You don't think we forgot about The Gambler, do you? Next up is Morning Desire by Kenny Rogers. Kenny has way too many hit songs, which means songs like this have to take a backseat in our memories. Released in October 1985, Morning Desire was the lead single from his 17th studio album, The Heart of the Matter. The song was written by Dave Loggins, and jazz guitarist Stanley Jordan played lead guitar on the track. It wasn't quite an instant hit. Morning Desire didn't go number 1 on the US Billboard Hot Country Songs chart until January 1986, making it The Gambler's 12th number 1 on the country chart as a solo artist. And even then, it stalled at number 72 on the Billboard Hot 100 and only reached number 8 on the US Billboard Hot Adult Contemporary tracks. The song still spent 14 whole weeks on the country chart. It also wasn't nominated for any major awards, but there's no doubt that Morning Desire remains one of Kenny Rogers' most enduring songs, a song that can definitely stand the test of time. Bop by Dan Seals.
Put on your Bobby socks, baby.
We've had some really big names from the 80s on our list. Maybe it's time for a bit more obscure one, someone only a true country fan can remember. And that brings us to the top 2 song on our list. In second place, Bop by Dan Seals. The name Dan Seals might not ring any bells, because he was one half of the rock duo England Dan and John Ford Coley, who charted up to 9 songs between 1976 and 1980, before going solo and picking up the name Dan Seals instead. Bop was one of Dan's biggest career hits. Written by Paul Davis and Jennifer Kimball, the song was released in October 1985 as the second single from his 5th studio album, Won't Be Blue Anymore. The track had legendary Shane Keister on the synthesizers, with Paul Davis also working the drum programming. Bop had Seals' signature country pop style, with an upbeat melody and smooth vocals. Due to its late release in 1985, it wasn't until early 1986 that the song reached number 1 on the US Billboard Hot Country Singles chart, becoming only his second number 1 hit on the chart and his first as a solo artist. What made Bop a real success was that it was also quite a crossover hit, reaching number 42 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 10 on the Adult Contemporary chart. The song is also certified gold in Canada. While it didn't get any Grammy nods, it did win Seals the Country Music Award for Single of the Year. This one was quite the hit. Highwayman by the Highwaymen.
I was a highwayman, along the coach roads I did ride.
The number one song on our list, Highwayman by the Highwaymen, won the Grammy for Best Country Song in 1985. The Highwaymen was a country music supergroup composed of some of country music's biggest stars at the time who pioneered the outlaw country subgenre: Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Chris Christopherson. In 1985, the original Highwaymen song, released in 1977, inspired the group's name. Their version of the song was released on May 6th. It also served as the lead single from their album of the same name. The Highwaymen's version of the track had each of the 4 verses sung by a different person, starting off with Nelson as the highwayman, then Christopherson as the sailor, then Jennings as the dam builder, and finally Cash as the starship captain. Several years later, this still stands as the group's most popular song. This version by the quartet peaked at number 1 on the Hot Country Songs Billboard chart and spent a total of 20 weeks on the chart. By the end of the year, it was the number 5 country song in terms of airplay. It also earned songwriter Jimmy Webb a Grammy Award for 1985's Best Country Song, a song that should never be forgotten, a song that shaped the genre forever. And that brings us to the end of quite a list. What's there to say that the individual and collective feats of each of these songs haven't? These weren't just hits that defined 1985, no. They are classics that defined an entire genre, that defined generations. 1985 was quite the year thanks to these songs. What other songs do you think deserve to be up here?